Okay, just a minute now. Good morning, everyone. Here we are, Facebook Live. Woo woo. PFI Live. We've got Michael Hoffman with us. We have a little friend with us.
What's up, Eddie?
Cute Eddie.
And someone had a birthday this week. Someone had a birthday. Michael Hoffman. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Yogi.
Is it half century or 3/4?
Oh, it's way past a half century now.
Okay.
That's why I was wondering if the 3/4 was closer.
Yeah, closer to 3/4. Not that close, but
well, every birthday gets celebrated.
I want to know what you were grilling for your birthday.
Bone-in ribeyes, man. Bone-in ribeyes. Yes, they were the best too.
Yeah,
they were the best. Hey, we got to get together and swap some stories, man, because I've learned to smoke a brisket that will change your life, my friend.
I'm in.
We
got to swap stories and methods because I've learned some stuff.
We should do a PFY live at Michael Hoffman's house.
Oh, that'd be great. Come to the kitchen. Come to America's Kitchen.
Oh, yeah. That would be fun.
Maybe we can all be featured in a viral video.
That's right. We can all do a dance in the kitchen. It'd be kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, we can get Allie. It can be a whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Happy birthday.
That was
awesome. I'm going away. Have a good show.
I'm having when we don't get up early enough to make fresh coffee, we have day old iced coffee. So just you guys are always talking about your coffee stuff. So I had to get in on it.
I think day old coffee is underrated. I like day old. I don't mind day old coffee at all.
Heat it up in the microwave usually.
Yeah. I don't know if it's bad or not, but I don't mind day old coffee. Especially if it's in those, hermetically sealed containers like you're holding there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that helps too. Nobody knows. All right. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Eddie.
Bye.
That was awesome.
All right. So,
hey, listen, before we get into it, I just wanted to share with you, speaking of coming to the kitchen, the viral videos that we did in the kitchen, the dancing with my daughter, Allie, in the kitchen, that they're still propping up. I got this morning. She sent me, she says that one of her favorite worship song, her worship groups were in Times Square, and they were doing a live from Times Square because they were waiting for their commercial, their billboard to show up in Times Square. And while they were waiting, somebody texted them because they were doing a live. Somebody texted Allie because Oreo was having a commercial on Times Square, which they used our commercial. So my daughter Allie and I made Times Square.
Oh my gosh.
It's a good day. It's a good day.
That's a great day. That's a great.
See what happens to a ripple of joy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, totally right. Totally right. Which today we're going to talk about feedback. Which,
good segue. Nice segue.
I'm on my computer here. I hear. So let me fix that. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is
a nice segue.
All right. So, and dealing with that, giving feedback. What are I love feedback.
Do you?
I think I love to give feedback. I don't like to receive feedback.
There's the truth. Okay, there's the truth right there. That's exactly right.
And I've learned over, my years of being in leadership, how to give feedback pretty well. But I don't receive feedback well, especially negative feedback. Like, and especially if it's too raw, too fresh, too close to the incident, you know what I mean? So what can what do you like feedback? Do you like to give
Well,
feedback?
I have learned over the years to receive feedback as the gift that it is. However, you are absolutely correct. A lot of people don't know how to give feedback, or they think they're giving feedback when they're really giving criticism. And although their intent is to give feedback, it's just an excuse to say something negative about you or what you've done. So, a lot of us have built up walls on how to receive feedback, which is a shame. Mainly because people don't know how to give good feedback. So hopefully we'll bring some clarity to that today, because I think it's, especially in the ministry, it's one of the greatest gifts that you can bring, especially in ministry, because a lot of the people that we work with are not under our authority. It's just under our influence. And so feedback is one of the greatest ways to have influence on those around you and whether it's positive feedback or feedback for reinforcement or feedback for improvement, it's supposed to be all good. It's just the way that you deliver it. So hopefully we can shed some light on that.
Okay, you said something I think we need to clear up. So, don't I only give feedback to people that I have authority over?
No, you're giving feedback all the time. You give feedback to your son. You give feedback to your husband, Yogi.
I have authority over them.
That's true. There is authority over them. That's true. But I'm talking about, the useful information that brings clarity and focus. That's what feedback is supposed to be. Feedback, the difference between feedback and saying something nice is that one is an attaboy, and one has a purpose, which is to bring focus to a behavior of something you said or something you did that needs either reinforcement or needs to be addressed. But feedback has a very specific purpose, and you don't have to have authority to give it. We give feedback all the time. We give feedback to, we're constantly giving feedback, but it's not necessarily received, mainly because sometimes we don't know we're giving it. So I want to use it like a tool, like a ninja. I want to do it on purpose so that when people leave, we've actually gotten to things quicker. I have less fights, especially when I'm dealing with something that's got to be addressed. Lots of ways to use it, but the first place to start is there's a difference between feedback and self-esteem. If I were to say, Amy, you in that last meeting, you were amazing. It really was just a joy to have you in the meeting. Thank you so much for just bringing it. It was great. I appreciate you.
That's thank you very much. Whew.
Yeah. Woo-hoo. And you feel good and you go, oh yeah, I was noticed. That was really great because I put myself out there and I'm glad it was positive. Thank you very much. So let me ask you this, Amy, do you know what you're going to do again next meeting?
I'm going to bring it. I'm going to show up. You're going to,
you're going to sing with that's the difference between feedback and self-esteem. Self-esteem makes me feel really good. And I got it. But I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So if I were to give you a piece of feedback and say, Amy, in that last meeting, first of all, let me just say that it went so well. You gave so much at that meeting. You were a chatty patty, absolutely a chatty patty. And I have to tell you, it was the best conversation we've ever had. The things that you gave were from a perspective that we normally don't get to hear. And so I really appreciate you jumping in and having such input into the conversation. I think we got a lot done, and a lot of it was because of you giving in the conversation. So thank you very much for that. Big impact on the day.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do next meeting?
Well, it was specific, right? You want me to share, you want me to bring a different perspective and not be nervous maybe about that because my thoughts were different, right? But that they were valued, they were received. We maybe went in a different direction, or they were, and so I would feel confident to continue to do that.
Wow. So look at all those observations you just made at the difference between self-esteem and feedback. Self-esteem is good. We need it. It's like the grease of our relationship. When I say thank you and appreciate, it kind of greases our relationship. Right. It makes things fun, everything else. But it's not as useful as feedback. And so there's different times when I would make sure I'm giving feedback as opposed to like just a self-esteem, thank you and appreciate. And look at all the benefits. Not only did you know what you did, and that you were, and you said, and here's the emotion behind it, you were confident to do it again, but you also had insight into how I felt about it. all in
Yeah.
a matter of 30-second little snippet of an information. That's the power of feedback. So it's bringing light to a behavior, what you said or what you did, and adding importance to it so that you can interpret what I meant. And so giving feedback is a very important skill. And I know last time we got together, go back and watch the other broadcasts, but we had talked about great conversations or great meetings. And feedback is not a meeting. Feedback is an element of a meeting. It's things that you say, I need to bring focus to this. And so you add a piece of feedback. Or I need to talk about something important. So I give a piece of feedback where we're off. Feedback for improvement. But it's when I need to add those elements of specificity that brings focus to the topic of our conversation. So this is just one more tool to add to your meetings bag.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. And I do think that that's the trick or the secret to feedback is that it is specific and that I guess I oftentimes feel like I'm giving feedback and I think in my mind, I think of it as a negative thing, but it's not really, right? When I want to correct a behavior or I want someone, to do something different or I want them to show up differently. And that sometimes can be difficult for the person giving the feedback and the person receiving it, right?
Yeah, especially if it's not done right.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. First of all, let's get some clarity. The reason why you would want to give feedback and why I really want to change your perspective as, sometimes it's difficult for me to give feedback. Well, if you're going to bring up something negative or something that needs to be addressed, then yeah, it can be challenging. But feedback in itself is a massive gift. And let me tell you why. And we talk about this all the time. I use this example all the time. So you've heard me say it more than once. And that is, we live behind our eyeballs. Yeah. I don't see me work. I don't see the impact. I feel the impact of my actions, but I've never seen me. I've never heard me. I have my inside voice, which is completely different than what you get from me. So I rarely get me. And when you hold up examples of me, it should be taken as a massive gift. Now, you may have to get through a lot of baggage because I'm 58 years old now, and I've got a lot of baggage as to how I receive information, but that's not your problem. You just have to see it as a gift of, this is what I'm talking about, mainly because you might not have known this. So I'm going to give you a piece of reality. This is you, and this is the impact that it has. And when I get that, it's actually quite rare. It's quite rare because most people they suck at feedback. They're terrible at it. They don't know because they don't know what it is. And so sometimes I get a lot of this. People go, well, let me ask you that. Have you ever seen the movie? Working Girl? It's an old movie back in the 80s.
No.
Melanie Griffith, Working Girl. It's worth the rent. It really is.
Okay.
A young Joan Cusack, which is one of my favorite actresses. Melanie Griffith was in her heyday. But anyway, it's a story about a woman who worked in the lower areas of the company who has an opportunity. She was an assistant who actually takes advantage of shenanigans and becomes the boss for a while. And so it's called Working Girl and does a great job, blah, blah, blah. And her friend, Joan Cusack, knows what's going on. She's not who she says she is. And so she's trying to call her friend out, and she gives what most people think is feedback. And I use it in my classes all the time. I'll show the video clip. But in a nutshell, Joan Cusack is trying to give feedback to Melanie Griffith. And she walks into her office and she goes, some people sing and dance in their underwear doesn't make them Madonna, never will. And she walks away. These pearls, and I love it because that's what most people think feedback is let me drop my observations about you on you. And Melly's just looking at her like, what the heck did that mean? I have no idea what that meant. And I think a lot of us do that. I have observations that I want to bring up, but I don't know how to present it in a way that's palatable. Yeah. So we have great anxiety over things like this. And you really shouldn't. It's actually quite simple. So let me bring some clarity to
it. Please do.
Some people sing and dance in their underwear. It doesn't make them Madonna. Never will.
my gosh.
All those management bombs, but we do it all the time. Okay, so feedback for improvement and feedback for reinforcement. Two things, and I have a very simple process that will change your life.
Oh.
It's called the what, why method. 2 pieces, that's all. What, why, and for improvement, it's what, why. So it's basically what, why. When I'm giving you a picture of you, I want to tell you what you said or did. I want to bring specificity. It's not a self-esteem, which we need all the time, thank yous and appreciates, because if it's not, and I gave you the example, if it's not specific, you have to. It's kind of funny, even in that little exercise. I said, what would you do with that? And you said, I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to be great, which is what happens when we're not specific.
Right.
We make our recipients make up what we mean, and they could be totally off. Yeah. So the goal of the what, why method is what you said or did that made me want to tell you. And here's a tip: be as specific as you possibly can. Okay. So if I were to say, and the example was, hey, you did a great job. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work. Do that magic that you do. I remember my very first hire, and when I, really wrestling with these type of techniques. His name was Michael Campbell, very good friend of mine. And I remember the very first day he came to work for me. And I threw him into the deep end because he was hired to be our IT guy, and he was to make up all the PowerPoints and things. And so I did a presentation to the upper echelon every Friday, and it was like Friday morning. And so I said, hey, listen, I'm doing here's the outline that I'm giving the presentation to this afternoon. Normally you get a week to prepare, but if you could give me some slides to make me look good, that'd be great. And he did. He gave me 5 slides. They were very simple because he didn't have a lot of time, and they did everything I wanted them to do. They were in the background. They were just support. They made me look good and sharp and professional. Everything I wanted. So I had to give him some feedback because I'm a good manager, So I found Michael and I said, Michael, thanks, buddy. I mean, I'm so glad you're on our team. You're going to be great. You're going to be great. Now, like I said, normally you would have a week to prepare, but you really knocked it out of that park. Thank you. Here's the outline for next week. Just do that magic that you do, bud, and it's going to be great. What does that mean?
Do the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. Do that magic that you do. Well, now he's got a week. And so Michael's left to interpret what that meant. What does do that magic that you do mean? I had 32 slides. All of them had sound. No, it took a half hour to load.
Oh, my God.
I didn't open it because I thought he was going to do the same thing. So I'm sure his philosophy was, well, if he loved that, wait till he sees what I can do for a week. And everything he ever knew about PowerPoint was put into that presentation. I couldn't use it. It was too much. Oh. Everything flew in. Everything had sounds. It took the focus away from what we were talking. It was terrible. I'm trying to strip it before I had to cancel it. That was my fault. It's not Mike's fault. Yeah. It was my fault because I gave him bad feedback. I said, do that magic that you do. So what should I have said?
Well, you should have addressed probably that the number of slides were great. Keep it simple, right? They supported me. I only don't add too many slides. Maybe he could have added a couple, right? But you have to, very, very specific, right? About it.
So make me look professional, which you did. Yeah. I only use it as support. So just, a couple of the words, not a lot of words, just a couple of the words, nice and simple. I use it as background, make me look sharp and professional. That's all I want. That's specific.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the point. So the first step in feedback is be specific in your observations. And the next tip is add impact. If I don't add impact, you're left to interpret what that means. Is it good or bad? So if I were to say that example I gave you earlier, Amy, in that last meeting, you were a chatty patty. I have never heard you talk so much. Every topic we brought up, you had something to say. I was specific.
Yes.
It's exactly what I wanted to bring up. Was it good or bad?
Well, I interpreted it as bad because
Thank you. No, just I want you to note that. I want everybody listening to this to note that, because that's what every single one of us do. Is if I am left to interpret your observation, the first thing is going to be is not positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, it's not accurate because I'm making it up. But if I were to say, Amy, in that last meeting, you were a chatty patty. I have never heard you talk so much. At every topic, you had something to say. It was the best discussion we have ever had. We've never had your group represented as well as it was yesterday. Thank you for contributing. I really appreciate it. It was a great meeting. Completely different.
Completely different.
And all I added was the impact. That here, I was specific in my observations, and I added the impact of what it had.
Yeah.
And that is the secret. Most of us skip this piece.
Yes. Yes.
All we do is we give them our observations and we leave our people to interpret. So that's the master class in feedback today. If you took nothing away, take that, which is don't skip the impact. And an easy tip is use the words impact. The impact that was really great because.
Yeah, I love that. Could you use that same example, Mike, and model when they were chatty catty and you didn't want them to be that way?
Absolutely.
So then what would that feedback look like?
So feedback for improvement is the exact same format, except you add an alternative. Because if I just left it with these two pieces, it might sound like criticism. So if I were to say, Amy, in that last meeting, you were a chatty patty. I have never heard you talk so much. And every opportunity, every topic came up, you had something to say. It was a really great discussion. I thought the discussion was really rich. The challenge is that it was so overpowering, one-sided on your end that I don't think we had enough time to ensure that everybody gave. And because of our limited time in the meeting, I want to make sure that everybody has a chance. So what I'd like to see is, and that's the difference between feedback for improvement and feedback for reinforcement, is feedback for improvement is don't just end it with your observation.
Yeah.
It sounds like criticism.
Yeah.
So instead, say what I add an alternative. So it's what I said or did, the impact that it had, the why. Adults need to know why you brought this up. So it's why. Feedback for improvement is what, why, and then add a what, why. So you just do it again.
Yeah.
So it's what, why. So it's what I observed and why it missed the mark.
Yeah.
And what an alternative would be and why I think that's the goal.
Okay.
So, and that's really all it is. Feedback is really about hope. If I'm bringing something down, if I'm dealing with something that's challenging, it might be a longer conversation. And so feedback for improvement is really helpful when I'm about to have a longer conversation about a behavior that needs to be addressed. So let's just say there's tardiness that I'm going to have to address. Somebody is not showing up for meetings. They're not doing their job. So I had to bring it up.
Yeah.
So one of the ways you bring that up is specific examples. And that's where the feedback technique or the feedback tool really comes into help, because it's not just me saying you're always late. If I were to say you're always late, you may think of 3 times when you weren't late, and now we got an argument.
Right.
So the secret to those types of conversations is specific examples. And so I'll use the feedback template. It's in the last 3 meetings that we've had, you were at least 20 minutes late. The last one, you didn't even show. It's tremendously important for you to understand that your element is a major part of what we do. And so we find ourselves not having complete conversations. And so I want to address it. So instead of saying you're always late, I can say in the last 3 meetings. And that's one of the tips, is try to be as specific as you can.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more challenging when my entire goal for feedback for improvement is specific examples. Keep it away from you versus me, and we focus on the issues. 3 times we were late. We're missing this mark in our, we promised to do this, this, and this. We only did this. We missed these two. So whenever I can get specific about it, it takes it away from my opinion of you is challenged.
Yes.
And it becomes you and me versus that. And that's what specific does. It helps us create this thing that I want to address. And the better we can address it better, the more specific it is. And that's where feedback comes in, because it's what you said or did, or where we're off.
Yeah.
And the impact of that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, if it is personal, if it is something I want to bring up because it's your personality and it's having a direct impact, feedback is tremendously important, because unless I can bring up specific examples, it's very difficult for me not to be defensive.
Yeah.
So if you can give me examples of what you're talking about, that would be better. I was just working with a friend of mine who's a boss at a major department store, and he's got a person that is just a challenge. Matter of fact, he asked him to do something that we just had this conversation this week, and we were having coffee, and he gave me an example where we've got some major projects to take care of in our department. He works with him in his department. Excuse me. And I'm leaving, so you have to get this done today. And so it was, move this pallet. This has to get done. If you can put this. And the guy's response was,
oh my.
So Tom is just fuming. He's just, what do I do with this guy? I go, well, did you write it down? He goes, no. I go, why? He goes, why would I write it down? I go, have you talked with him about it? He goes, no, I haven't talked with him about it. So I'm going, it's going to be hopefully tomorrow when you talk about it, but it might be a while. You've got reviews coming up. You've got, conversations, your Monday huddles. But if you don't write those specific examples down, it's going to turn into hearsay.
Yeah.
And so Tom started keeping a log, I love moleskins. These are great for people in ministry, especially when you're dealing with problem children that you don't have any authority over because they're a volunteer army. So you capture examples that you can bring up in conversations that deal, especially on a personal level. Get specific. Don't just tell me that I lose my temper. Give me examples.
Yeah.
And I'll fight you less.
Why?
Why?
That's a great example. I've been in that situation before where I wanted to bring up a behavior, right, that's not serving us all well, and I let it go for a little while, and then I was like, shoot, there were examples, but I didn't capture them, and so now I'm not able to be specific about it, and so tried to generalize, and it didn't work, right, because you get
an argument.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to fight an example.
Yeah.
You can accept it, and sometimes they don't, but that's why, it's a part of the conversation. Feedback is not the conversation. It is ammo for the conversation. I still have to, in the last meetings that we had, the 5 steps of a conversation, especially for improvement, that first step, starting the conversation, tremendously important you do well, which is the purpose and the importance of the conversation. So the purpose of us is to address something that I think has been building for a while. And it's the way that we've been having our meetings. We've lost our temper in the last meeting, and that just, it's unacceptable. It can't happen. And let me give you an example. And so I'll throw in a feedback at the beginning of the conversation so that it's more specific. We're addressing something on purpose, and I'll have a better chance of having a decent discussion when I start it well. So feedback is not the conversation. It's ammo for the conversation.
That's awesome. And now we got another tool in our toolbox of communication, good communication, excellent communication. And gosh, you are just a wealth of information over there.
Thanks, Amy.
Well, and I like how you can take simple things and really break them down and give me tools and a script almost of how to successfully deliver this and to get results that I want, right? And I think it just falls to that being on purpose, right, about things. And you've been doing this a long time, so I'm sure you have heard ample stories of, it didn't work, things that didn't work. And you're like, hey, use my method and it works. Right. And everyone walks away with the information we need, and also knowing what needs to change or what I need to continue to do. So
none of these are magic bullets. They're approaches, they're tools, and you put them in your bag. And so when you walk into that conversation, I just want you reaching into that bag more on purpose, because when I start doing things on purpose, I'm going to have more of an impact. And it's all based on love. Everything is based on love. Everything I'm going to do, I'm doing for you, including feedback for improvement. Because you work behind your eyeballs. I know that. I want to show you because I actually like you. And I have to bring this up because I know that if you knew, you would want to address it. Yeah. And that's the approach all of these techniques should be based on. It's based on love, which is fueled by our faith. And
yes, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you again for sharing with us this week. You're back next week with us. That's exciting. We get you next week too. Your eyebrows are like, do I? I'm like, yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Let's talk about something completely different. Next week it's snowboarding.
Oh my gosh. Which I know nothing about. So this will be good.
Me neither. Live in Texas.
All right, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. And Michael, thank you so much. And have a great birthday week.
I like that philosophy. Thank you, Amy. Yes. Bye, everybody.
God bless. Bye.